Welcome to the SRP 3.0 tutorial series. In this series of short videos, we'll explore different features of SRP 3.0. In this particular video, we'll look at the Institute reports built into SRP 3.0. If you haven't already looked at the video on the general reports in SRP, I highly recommend stopping this video now and going and looking or viewing that video first. That video will show you some of the basic navigational features and exporting of data and reports that are built into SRP 3.0 that I probably won't cover in this video. So it would be beneficial to see that and then come back to this report video or the Institute report video. So looking at the Institute report, the first time you click on the reports view, this is the view you're going to get. The general reports will come up. You have to remember that this little down arrow means that this is a drop-down list. So you have to click on that and switch to the Institute reports. Otherwise, you won't see the Institute reports on your screen. So when we select Institute reports, once again, similar to the general reports, you have the summary reports on the left-hand side and the list reports on the right-hand side. And in addition to that, you'll see that similar reports are repeated. So you have children's class, junior youth groups, and study circles, and we have similar sets of reports for each of those activities, both on the summary side and on the listing side. So we'll probably look in detail at one set of these, but then you can assume that this information is the same as this block of information. So let's look at the summary report for children's class. So I'm going to click on the children's class summary in progress, and the report will be generated. And like I said, this is a summary-based report that will show you children's classes, the number of this activity, in this particular case, children's classes, the number of children's classes, the total number of participants, and the number of friends of the faith in those children's classes. And it shows you the resource level as well. So the number of teachers from within the cluster, from outside the cluster, and then the total. Also, what is being shown is the total number of individuals that have taken book 3 in this particular case. Because as we know, book 3 is the study of becoming a children's class teacher. So these are the individuals in the cluster that have completed that level of study. So it's showing you what your total capacity or total resources in the cluster are, and how many of them, what percentage of them have been mobilized to be children's classes. So perhaps one of the goals of a future cycle can be to increase this number of participation, to mobilize additional individuals that have completed book 3 already by asking them to be co-tutors. That way they get some training, and then they could perhaps start new children's classes in the future. So similarly, we're going to see, for the other reports, if we look at junior youth reports, it'll be the same thing. You see the total number of that activity, the total resources within that activity, and how many people have been trained and mobilized to participate in that activity. Up here, what we're seeing is we're looking at in progress. If I click down, you can do participation by grade. We'll look at that in a second. And then you have by cluster. I can look at this by locality as well as by focus neighborhood. So it'll break down that information into each of the focus neighborhoods if you've broken down your focus neighborhood. And the last drop down is the latest data, what the database shows as of right now, or a date range if you want to look at this information at a particular point in time. Or if I look at the cluster, the same thing here. I can look at the information at a particular date and time. So that's the first of the summary reports. If I click back here, I see that the next report is the participation by grade. And that's also the same thing as here. So you can see that I can either switch back and forth between the reports that are available at this level, or I can go back up to the report menu and select the next one. If I go back up to the report menu and select the next one, it's actually going to open a different tab for me. If I select it from within here, within the same tab, it switches back and forth. So that might be important, because if you're trying to get multiple reports on the screen and go back and forth and compare and contrast some of these numbers, you may want to go back to the report menu and select the next one. So looking at the summary report for participation by grade, what we're seeing is at the cluster level, these are the number of children in grades 1 through 6. So total number of children in this particular grade level. And I can switch this to completed, or I can switch it to in between. So if you want to see how many children have completed a particular children's class grade level within the last 6 months, let's say, you could do that here. So if we go back to the reports menu and we just go into here, you'll see very similar things on the summary reports: total number of activities, total participants, number of friends of the faith in that activity, total animators, whether the animators are coming from within or outside the cluster, total number of individuals who have completed book 5, and the percentage that have been mobilized to become animators. But we see that the summary reports are very similar between the different types of activities. And then we have a couple down below. The all educational core activities. Here, you see all of the activities in one report. So we're seeing the children's classes, junior youth groups, study circles. For each one, we're seeing the total number of that activity, total participation, and total friends of the faith. The total number of facilitators, and then we're getting a total count, which basically is the total of these three. So we have 20 educational core activities, 85 people in them with 8 friends of the faith. And again, this information can be broken down by focus neighborhood, let's say. So you can see what level of activity you have going on, what types of activities that have been started in a focus neighborhood. And lastly, we'll look at the pyramid of human resources. So on the right-hand side of this pyramid, we're seeing the total number of individuals that have completed a particular book. And on the left-hand side, you're seeing the total number of individuals that are actually in a book that is in progress. And one thing to note is this little blurb down here. If you click on one of these bars, you'll get a listing of those individuals. So let's say this is a quick way to say, we have 69 individuals that have completed book 5. Let me see who those are. Or I can come back in here and say, we have, I didn't see the count. We have 11 individuals that are currently in a book 5. Maybe I know that this book 5 is about to complete. I would want to see this list, so perhaps I can start mobilizing these individuals and getting them to visit in this particular case, a study circle. So maybe they can co-tutor a study circle with someone, get some experience. So when they come out, they can basically become mobilized in that activity. So that completes all of the summary reports. So let's look at the list reports. Once again, maybe we'll go to the junior youth this time. So if we select under the junior youth groups section, the in progress, Once again, we've got the in progress report. If I look in progress, participation by book, participation details, facilitation experience, I go back to the reports, in progress, participation by book, participation details, facilitation experience. So you can see it's the same list. So let's go back to in progress. And these are the junior youth groups that are currently in progress in the cluster. So what are we seeing? We're seeing the cluster that they're in. We're seeing the start and end date. Since they're in progress, there is no end date. We're seeing what book are they currently studying. So this is Breezes of Confirmation. We're seeing the total number of participants in that junior youth group, total number of friends of the faith in that junior youth group, and we're getting the animator's contact information in case we need to contact that animator. In this particular one, we're seeing that they're currently studying this book, but they've completed a couple of books. And the total number of participants, friends of the faith, and contact information once again. So let's switch to the next, participation by book. So on the participation by book in the list view, we're seeing all the actual individuals that are currently, well, let me back up. We're seeing a list of individuals in the cluster. And how do I know that? Is right here, we're seeing all junior youth. So these are all the junior youth that are in our database. And what is being shown is whether they have completed a junior youth book or whether they are currently in progress. So here's our legend down here. The filled square means completed. The open square means in progress. The square with the halfway filled means it's a repeating. They've repeated a book. So this is all of the individuals in the cluster, but perhaps I want to just see the individuals that are currently participating in a junior youth group. So these are everybody in the cluster and the various junior youth groups that we have that are currently studying a particular book. Or we may want to see who has completed certain books. So if we want to see who has completed Breezes, we could use the completed, and here's the list of the individuals that have completed Breezes, and so on. Or how many individuals have repeated a book. And this is an interesting one that we have on the list views, is not in this activity. So remember that we have the all junior youth, so this is everybody and whether they've completed a book or not. And here we have not in this activity, so we can get a listing of the junior youth in our cluster, locality, focus, neighborhood, whatever level that you're looking at, who are not in a junior youth group right now. So this is your potential list of participants for whatever level of activity that you're looking at. If we look at the participation details, in this view, once again, we're looking at everybody that has completed a book or is in progress of a book. The beauty of this view actually is that you can see who is in a particular book. So I can switch this. This is perhaps easier to see if I go to the study circles. So study circles, participation details, book 1 in progress. Well, what does book 1 completed look like? These are all the individuals that have completed book 1. Or maybe you want to see how many people have completed book 5. Well, these are all the individuals that have completed book 5. Or is there anybody studying book 5 right now? Yes, there is. So this is a very good view to get to, you can mix and match. I want to see who has completed book 7. These are all my potential tutors. In progress, nobody's studying it right now, but these are everybody that has completed it. And this type of view, you can export the data into Excel, or you can generate a printed report and save it as a PDF and share it with someone. Or if you're coming from a Mac, you can actually print it directly to your printer. So that's the participation details. We have the last report in each of these sections is facilitation experience. So if we select that, we see for study circles in this particular case, facilitation experience, and once again, we're looking at a list of all individuals. So this is everybody that's in the cluster and whether they are currently facilitating or have previously facilitated. So this particular view shows everybody in our database. That may not be a useful view to look at the 400 people and then try to pick off the people that have studied or are participating in an activity. But maybe this one is a little bit easier for us or what we want to see. Facilitation experience currently in progress. So these are everybody that is currently tutoring. And I can actually go to completed. This is everybody that has completed a book. So these are my previous tutors, let's say, or repeating. I don't have any individuals in this particular database. So let's go back up to the reports menu. We looked at the in progress, we looked at the participation by grade, we looked at the participation details and the facilitation experience. So let's come down to the next block, which is the all activities. So let's click on participation. We're looking at participation of all individuals in all of the institute, educational institute series. So this kind of view is good when you see a child that may have gone through the children's classes, moved into the junior youth groups, and then has started in the institute courses. We have participation, all individuals. Once again, we can break this down into in progress. So this is everybody that is currently in some sort of an educational process at whatever level. If I do completed, these are everybody that has completed the book. It may be in a book currently as well, but these are everybody that's completed books. And perhaps I want to know who has repeated certain books. And lastly, not in this activity. So these are everybody in my database that isn't in any of my activities, any of the educational series. Whether they're children, we can perhaps get them to get involved in the children's classes. If they're in the age group of junior youth, we can get them involved in that. Or if they're adults, then we can get them involved in the institute courses. So just like looking at the all activities participation, we have the flip side of that, which is the facilitation experience. So we can look at the facilitation experience at the level of all the potential activities. So in progress. So these are all of my children's class teachers, junior youth group animators, as well as study circle tutors. And I can select completed once again, repeating, and those that are not currently serving in any of these activities, or don't have, in this particular case, don't have facilitation experience in any of these. So that's a look at the Institute reports that are built into SRP 3.0. Once again, we have summary reports and list reports. The summary reports basically tell us numerical information, and the list reports allow us to see who is in a particular activity or who isn't. Thank you for watching this video, and look forward for more videos in this series on our YouTube channel.